Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Your Handmade Business. I'm Sharon Fain. I'm the founder and co-director of Academy of Handmade. Today, we do not have Isaac Watson, who is usually here with me, who is usually my partner in crime. Today, we have Kerri Burki instead. Hi, Kerri.
Hi.
Welcome. Kerri is from Zenned Biz, and she's been involved in the handmade community for a long time and now has a business that helps handmade artists and makers and other creative business owners with their own sort of intuitive and self-care practices. Was that what you would say was a good summary?
Yes.
Good.
Yes, perfect.
So we are happy to have her. So as people are trickling in, if you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves in the chat area. If you happen to have a question while we're talking, the Ask a Questions area below is a good place to do that too. You can also do the chat. This is a little bit more informal than our normal webinar type situations where we try to direct you to Ask a Questions area. This month, November, we're talking about self-care. So we've already had 2 sessions on self-care. The first one was talking about self-care at craft shows, which is, I think, a really big one. And I think craft shows can suck a lot of energy out of people during the season. I mean, in general, but especially during the season because there's usually so many. So that was the first one. And last week's we talked about listening to your body. So this is, I think, kind of like a good complement to the listening to your body one that we're talking with Kerri today. We're going to be talking about how to develop your own self-care practice. So kind of going off of last week a little bit and figuring out how to sort of remedy once we've gotten ourselves into these very stressed out places, or how to prevent getting deeper into stress. So we're going to talk about that today. But if you want to watch any of the replays, above my head, above our heads, is a thing that says schedule, and you'll see it says session 3 of 4. So if you click on that, you'll see the other ones. Don't go to the other ones right now, though, because you'll miss this one happening right here. So do not click that. Stay in this one because it will automatically take you out of here if you do. Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit more, Kerri, and tell us what you do and kind of like what the whole story is behind Zenned Biz, because you also have a collaborator with you on that. As I have a collaborator as well too.
Yes, I'm more of the kind of the self-care aspect. I've been teaching yoga for almost 15 years, and I got involved with the handmade business working for the wholesale side of Paper Source, like waste not paper, a long time ago. And I would go to the gift shows in New York and San Francisco, and it just made me fall in love with everything creative even more. And then I moved to Arizona and I met Cassie Uhl, and she runs a business called Zenned Jewelry. And so she grew her business on Etsy. It's big now. She's on Etsy and has her own website. And so she's kind of knows like the pains of growing a handmade business. So we just clicked, and I've been working on a site called Handmade Success that some of you guys might know about. And so we kind of switched the format a little bit to focus a little bit more on self-care and teaching, handmade business owners how to trust themselves more, how to take care of themselves a little bit more. And that's kind of where we're at now. So it's called Zenned Biz, and Cassie is my partner. And I know going into this time of year is crazy. So Sharon and I've been emailing back and forth, and I got tons of fun stuff to share.
I'm excited too. And Cassie is amazing too. So
she is.
At some point we'll need to get her on here too as well. And if you guys are at all interested in going to Craftcation, or if you've already signed up to go to Craftcation, Kerri will be there, and Cassie is going to be there too, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. She'll do more business stuff, and like kind of some of the stuff we're doing here, we're going to elaborate on, and there'll be some maybe guided meditations on the beach too.
Yeah, I'm excited. So look forward to that. I guess let's dive right in and start talking about developing a self-care practice and like why you would develop a self-care practice for the holidays, and like, is that different than the rest of the year? Like, what is this all about?
Well, it's funny. I was kind of thinking that if you can develop one during the holidays, then you'll probably just use this throughout the rest of the year, and you'll just find ways to tweak it. Something that might be nice for us to do. I saw the bee.
There's the bee. Oh my God, there's a bee.
Sharon, I mean, it has got timing. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Let's just wish that bee to get out of here.
Not been like near me at all, and now it's decided that my print looks like a plant.
I know. I was like, what's on your shirt?
Also behind me are these letters for the signs that we use. It's just throwing stuff wherever. All right.
Okay, so what I thought would be kind of neat is if we did like a breathing exercise together. And the reason I want to say that, you said like, why would it be important? And I feel like maybe if we do this together, you will like literally feel different at the end. I think I'll just do a timer. We'll do it for about 30 seconds. I usually do one for like a minute or 3 minutes. But you'll just notice a shift, and that's kind of will be your incentive to continue to do a self-care practice through the holidays. So I have one that's called a 4-part breath, and it means you inhale with 4 sniffs. So it's like, and then you're going to exhale, 1 long exhale. So I'm going to put a timer, and so we're going to do this for 30 seconds. And if you really want more energy, sorry, I'm just putting on my timer. You would, when you exhale, you really pull your belly button back towards your spine. So it's 4 sniffs to inhale. You can close your eyes while you do this, and just try to sit up as tall as you can. You can just let your hands relax. So let's get started. So you're going to inhale 4 sniffs, exhale out of the nose. So continue 4 sniffs, inhale, exhale. Just keep continuing. Again, if you feel like you need energy, really pull the belly button back as you exhale. Just go at your own pace. 4 sniffs when you inhale. Exhale nice and long. Okay, so that was 30 seconds. So you can just close your eyes and breathe normally. And even breathing normally, maybe take a couple deeper breaths. Feel like your rib cage expands. So depending on how often you do breathing exercises, you could maybe even feel a little bit lightheaded after doing one that's kind of like the 4 sniffs. But you should feel a little bit different, like something shifted. For one, it got you out of your head and into your body. When you're trying to take 4 sniffs and then pull your belly button back on an exhale, it's hard to think about other things, other things that might be stressing you out. And that's another important thing. So just for 30 seconds, you did not think about stuff that was maybe bothering you. It's also important to kind of take that little time after to pause, because that breath, I call it a clearing breath, because you can almost feel like if you're just feeling like you just got a lot going on, that breath can maybe make you feel a little bit lighter. And when you pause after, the idea or the path you were looking for, the thing you're feeling stuck around might pop into your head because you created that space, as opposed to when you just feel like you're pretty much banging your head against the wall.
I feel like did make me feel lighter, and also like maybe like more open or something too, after doing that exercise. So like my favorite time to do that is when I transition from my day to going to pick up my kids. So from school. And because I feel like, I'm still like running in like business mode, and I want to shift. And then like the other time I do it is like during my work day, when I can tell I'm just feeling stuck, and I'm trying. You can add on to that, like more, like you can take your arms and like as you inhale the 4 sniffs, bring your arms up and out, and then that's just kind of good if you feel like you're feeling tight. And so right there, like you said, feeling a little bit more open. I feel like holiday stress can make you not feel open. And totally.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point too about the like transitions, like doing stuff like this in a transition point, because I think I think it's a very hard time of year to separate business and personal life and, you know, different kinds of things like that, and like family and things. And I think it's easy for like the stress of all of those things to bleed over into each other in not a great way, I think. So, I mean, when you're in your business creatively, you don't want your work stress to spill into your family. And I think this year is a time for a lot of family stress, and you don't want that to spill into your business creatively because, you know, that's not helpful
No,
either.
I mean, I feel like that breath could also be benefit when you like show up at a holiday party with family or whatever, and you're like, before you go in, you know, that breath I feel like stirs up more. I mean, I'm always a big proponent of telling people to take deep breaths. All of a sudden you do that and you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't taken one of those in a while. But for that little extra shift, that's a really good one.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so maybe let's talk about some things that we could do that I think you mentioned, or, you know, when we talked earlier about like what you can kind of do as part of a self-care practice, and then maybe we can talk about how those things you might be able to implement them.
Yes. So I think if you are thinking about that, you'd like to have like your own little routine, you probably already have things in mind that you know you like doing. So just based on what I've already said, I really think reading would be part of it. Sharon and I were talking before this started because that's free. I was like, you can do it anytime. And to almost train your brain to, when you're feeling out of whack or just something, to be like, oh gosh, yes, that's right. I need to focus on my breath for a little bit. And it can really help you feel like you get into a flow. Another thing I talked about, I have like a whole little supply of things over here that I learn about. And so some of you guys might have like essential oils. So to have one maybe at your workspace, I have them all over. It's like, this one's called cedarwood, and I've learned that it's not everybody's favorite, but this one, when I discovered I loved it, I started like sharing it with people. I'm like, oh my gosh, you smell it? And people are like, oh my gosh, no. But it does something to me. And, you know, there's like science about scent. So I don't even put this on anything. I have one by my bed. I have one by my workspace. And I just inhale it. And oh my gosh, it's like, it grounds me. So I feel like in the holiday season, feeling grounded, you don't. So I feel like it would be really good to find something like that. I kind of like, I made myself a cup of tea because that's kind of another thing, like to smell. This one has kava in it, for you guys to kind of come up with something that's related to scent. I mean, I also grabbed, like, this is a candle I got at Anthropology, and the scent is just amazing. So for you, I think a self-care routine, there's like good to have times when you do things, like maybe morning, afternoon, like we're saying, transitions, and maybe at the end of the day to have something you do so you don't go from like screen or workspace to bed. You know, that would be a breath. Maybe have like, you know, a moment where you light a candle or you inhale some essential oil, or, you know, you have a cup of tea. And then go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think that's so, I mean, all of these things I feel like can seem like weird luxuries sometimes, or like that we're like trying to weirdly pamper ourselves. And it's like, no, this stuff is like very necessary to like, this is lighting this candle is you taking care of yourself. Like, it's a part of like, you know, making that cup of tea and, you know, smelling some essential oil, or, you know, depending on what you're doing, is like either rubbing it on yourself or having, you know, maybe like some incense or potpourri nearby or whatever, that's like helping you with like kind of a multi-dimensional way of like de-stressing. Because I feel like it can be this, you know, you can have this candle going while you're working, you can be drinking this tea while you're working, and all of this can help you to, you know, relax during the process of work. That I think it's easy to think like, I feel like, I mean, this is me at least, I feel like it's very easy to get into work mode, and that becomes efficiency mode, and that becomes things like, what do I need candles for? What do I like things that, you know, you might be like, oh, on a normal day, I go around and light candles and I make myself coffee or tea or whatever and do these things for myself. And then I think it's very easy to be like, I'm working so hard, I've forgotten these other things. That, like,
I know, and then you'll realize that you never do that. You're like, I never light candles anymore, and I never.
Yeah. Because you've gotten so into that space, and it's true. Like, well, I feel like, I know you're in the Southwest, but I feel like I just don't light candles during the summer because I can't, like, it's too freaking hot. Like, I don't know. Like, but now it's getting into that time of the year. I mean, it's supposed to be in the 80s this week, but we just had 100-degree weather, but it is getting cooler at some level here. And then it's like, okay, now I remember this is the time of year when, like, I go through candles like a crazy person, and, like, I need to allow myself that this is a good thing, and, like, you should be, you know, these are helpful to maintaining a more relaxed, zenned out life.
Well, you saying that does, I feel like depending on where you live, you might need to, like, be aware that you might need to change things seasonally. Like, tea calms me, but I'm in Arizona. I do not drink tea during the summer. I was like, because you're right. It sounds horrible. I now have like an herbal iced tea maker, and then, you know, I don't know. You got to find things like, you know, make it like LaCroix or, you know, a kombucha or something.
Yeah. What's self-care in the summer is not always self-care in the winter.
I know. So yes, I feel like that's a big thing. And I think something you just said, I woke up this morning and I have that, like, every time you open a new tab, there's like a inspirational quote. And I thought it was perfect for today. It said, tension is who you think you should be. Relaxation is who you are. And so I felt like that really just tied into it. Like you said, you get into work mode and you get tense because you're thinking you should, that if you kind of took that moment before you started to be like, what do I want my work environment to be like today? And like always, like, I'm this creative person. Like, what do I have? Do I have a scent going? Do I like candles, or kind of whatever it is for you? Do you pause before you start and maybe kind of how do I want to feel today? And that will help you kind of come from where you are, instead of kind of spending that whole workday, like you said, efficiency and feeling like should, you know?
Yeah.
Because that can be stressful. I think I'm just going to smell this some more. I also have, so like I said, like lavender, and people are usually a big fan of lavender. That's nice. So like, this is grounding, but like, say in the middle of the day or in the morning, you need to, like, you want to wake up. Like, peppermint's good. Eucalyptus is good. Spearmint. Some people like citrus in the morning or the afternoon, like lemon, orange, tangerine can kind of wake you up. And I mean, you can diffuse these and stuff, but I just always think it's nice just inhaling it. Just like I said, it affects your brain and can kind of help you shift a bit.
Totally. Okay. So there's a couple other things that we talked about.
Yes.
One that I love is declutter as you go or before you start.
Okay, so I just finished this whole like intuitive counseling program. I mean, there was a whole course on like almost like decluttering is magic, and kind of saying, I was like, okay, so when you think of like magic, it's like, you know, when you think of like the rabbit out of the hat, like, you know, like that it's transforming one thing to the other, and how decluttering is like, say you feel one way, your workspace or your house, you feel one way because like there's clutter everywhere, and once you start like going, okay, no, that's garbage. Oh, no, wait, I'm going to find a place for this. Oh, wait, I'd really like it if these were stacked here. And then you do that. I mean, you feel different. Your space feels different. And all of a sudden you're like, you're like, oh my gosh, like I just made, you probably thought some problems were bigger, but just by taking that decluttering, you're like, oh my gosh, I like saying you kind of had the power to change the situation. And it's not like it's going to stay that way. Like you're like nice, neat, and organized. Because right, you get busy, especially in the holiday season. I feel like things get stacked and get crazy. But I feel like if you know, like, oh, but I know I can shift that on my own, you know, when I get a second. And I would suggest maybe not waiting for that second to be after the holidays. Like put like a 5-minute timer on your phone and be like, what can I get done? And you will literally, just like with the breathing, you'll be like, oh my gosh, I feel better.
Especially if you're putting it into a routine, I think thinking about like you said, either at the beginning of the day, like cleaning up your workspace. And it doesn't have to be like, you know, you're scrubbing things and making things spotless or dusting or whatever, but it could just be like you're organizing stuff, or at the end of the day, you like organize all of your tools and what have you, and put your projects in a pile so that the next day you can come and like, instead of it just feeling like you come the next day and it's just like blown up in your face and you're like, where did I leave off? You know, I think that can be a helpful like resetting for the next day, instead of just like coming into yesterday's stress and garbage, you know, like I think it's.
Well, like you notice, like when I transitioned from working and like in an office space to home, I was like, when I had an office, at the end of the day, I would like write down to-dos for the next day. I would like clear the space. You would like close the tabs on your computer, and you know, and you were like, and I'm done and I'm leaving for the day. And then you start working at home. You don't even shut the laptop sometimes or whatever. And you're like on to the next thing. And
yeah, things weirdly bleed at home, which I feel like it's this idea of like, because it's this more relaxed environment, we're like, well, I don't have to, whatever, like, you know, but it's true, because that's a thing that if you let it go too much, it can just make you bananas, you know.
Yes.
In your work.
Yes.
So.
And I think some of that stuff can actually be done. It seems overwhelming. And that's what I'm saying. Like you just set a timer. That do a while ago. That's been really nice. You set a timer, 5 minutes, and you're like, oh, and you got a lot done.
There's two more that I want to get through. One is to shake or dance, sort of like in the middle of the day, or maybe say something like motivational. I know we in Academy of Handmade, we went through Amy Cuddy's Presence book, which is it's a little bit similar, where she talks about like doing the like Wonder Woman pose or whatever, the superhero pose.
Nice, I like that.
And if you kind of say something like, and how like being in those poses like opens up your body and it like makes you feel powerful and sort of like grounds you. Like I know there's like another one's like starfish pose or whatever, like but doing any sort of those movements, I think, is an interesting way to go about that.
Yes, like you know that Florence and the Machine song. What is it? Shake It Out, Shake It Out.
Yeah, yeah.
That one is on. That is like a good one for me, and it's the kind of same time when I feel like I'm pushing something. Like the other day, I was trying to do something on a website, and it just was not working, and I was just pushing, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to step away from this, and. So, and this was right before I emailed you, and I just started like shaking my hands out, and I was dancing, and then I started saying that I am the boss, like as a reminder to myself that, I mean, I was feeling a little enslaved by the situation with the computer, and then I laughed after I realized I was saying I am the boss. But I mean, for a lot of the people watching this, like if you are your own boss, kind of that can be even empowering to say out loud. And just doing this, sometimes I'll even say out loud, you know, just I'm getting rid of any negative energy I've picked up, you know, spinning. And that's if you feel like, I mean, I think we should all have time to pick a song, but I mean, sometimes you just need to do something right then. And I do feel like, yeah, physical movement, especially for makers who are, you know,
you're doing all this repetitive stuff, yeah. And it's very easy to, I think, stay in that one pattern and then, you know, kind of ignore your body and not realize like I hurt because I'm, you know, in this one position where I just keep going harder and harder on it instead of, you know, trying to, you know, like you said, instead of just like beating your head up against the wall and whatever it was, like you just kind of need to, you know, I don't know.
It's like empowering.
Yell, whatever it is, like reset the energy in your body. Like when we were emailing back and forth, like I was telling her, I was like, I've actually heard that like dogs, like that's why dogs, when they like get up or whatever and they like shake their bodies and they do the shakeout, it's sort of like part of their own sort of like resetting energy to like, all right, I've sort of, you know, I don't know, like.
That's funny. It's like their transition.
Yeah,
right. Like transition.
And it's so funny because like we are always in my house, at least, constantly commenting on how the dogs like do their stretches and how like, And it's just very intuitive to them. They're like constantly like, I mean, they're just like sleeping a lot of the time. So, you know, it's like.
You're right. That is intuitive, right? They just kind of do it. And
they know how to like, you know, this is where downward dog actually comes from. They're doing their little dog poses and they're shaking out and they're, you know, intuitively knowing when to like play. And so anyways, but I think that's a good one because sometimes, you know, you do just need to like reset your body by like having a burst of energy or what have you within that. The other one that I think is super practical that I think is like so duh. And when you said this, I was like, of course, like, why didn't this? But is like schedule your social media posts through December.
Okay, so that was Cassie. I told Cassie, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be on this. What is I'm a successful creative business owner who can get stressed out during the holidays. What is your tip? And she was like, schedule your social media out. She's like, just so you don't have to worry about it. So I feel like us talking right now, I mean, you know, take the photos you need to, you know, figure out hashtags. Oh yes, I feel like that is such a one that you could just, whether or not you have it scheduled to go out or you're going to be posting it, just that freedom.
Yeah. And just even, I mean, if you guys, to do a personal plug, we do have the webinar on last minute holiday promo planning. If you guys are interested in taking that still, it is still relevant to right now and you can still get it done. But I do think, yes, like now is the time to go through and make, you know, plan the days that you're going to be having coupons and sales. Like, even if you don't write out every single thing, at least if you have a chart of sort of knowing that's going to tell you what to do every day, that is super helpful.
Yeah, maybe even putting it on your calendar. Like,
yeah.
So if you know, right, when you wake up and you look, I mean, I don't know if you know, you Google Calendar or whatever to be like, oh, that's right, I'm sharing that today. Because I feel like this time of year, you kind of forget what you put on there. So it's nice to have that reminder.
Yeah. Okay, so let's maybe talk about what it would look like to put this into kind of a routine.
Okay, so I don't feel like we really did anything that physical right now. But so I'd say, like, I have something you might like to do too is either you could set a time or a reminder on your phone so that's, you know, it's just, it kind of depends on your schedule. Like I said, sometimes I do this in my car pickup line at the kids' school is like my routine. Or I try to do it before I leave. But like I said, if you're kind of hitting those other moments that, depending on your situation, like you might like to step away from your computer or from your workstation, or, you know, or you might just kind of push yourself back away from it a little bit. And then I feel like maybe something like physical movement would be good. So I feel like makers do a lot of stuff with their hands. So like, I feel like, you know, interlacing your hands, and I talked to Sharon about this, and then stretching your arms forward. And then you lift your arms overhead. And I mean, some people have a hard time even lifting them that far if you're really tight. So you can have your elbows bent, you can have them up, you can try to go back. And if you want, you can even do this with the breath. So you'd inhale up, exhale down. And that you could do that a couple times. You could have one hand come down, stretch to the side, and then you'd go to the other side. I feel like once you kind of start these things, you could clasp your hands forward and kind of lean back. This gets into the shoulder blade area. And then like leaning forward. What I've noticed is when you start doing one thing, like all of a sudden I do that and I kind of notice my wrists. And then you might go, oh, my wrists need a little bit of attention. And then it becomes intuitive. Like, or you'd be like, oh, my low back. And so maybe you do a couple circles, or maybe you realize you need to stand up and like grab your heel and pull it towards your bottom to stretch your thigh. And so just kind of let that happen. I mean, it doesn't have to be anything too formal. Sometimes just sitting in your seat and doing twists will get into the muscles of your back. So I think physical movement's nice first, and then it kind of feels like it loosens you up. Then it's like somebody's starting to play some music. No?
It's just the taco track coming through.
Oh, awesome. I guess I didn't hear the whole melody together.
Sriracha happening.
Okay, so then after you move a little bit, you'll feel like you shifted. Then I'd say there's 3 types of breaths you guys could try. So just deep inhales where you feel like your rib cage and your belly just expand when you inhale. And when you exhale, feel it all come out. So real nice deep ones. Every time I do this, and I mean, I'm pretty good at focusing on my breathing, I'll notice I was breathing up here, like short breaths, and this, it just relaxes you. The other breath I would suggest would be, if you're kind of wanting more of a shift, would be that 4-part, 4 inhale, the 4 sniff inhale, and then exhale. And if you want more energy, you pull the belly button towards the spine. Last one, it's called the cleansing breath. So you inhale through your nose, exhale out of your mouth. I mean, and if you're feeling kind of stressed, like exhale with a sigh, like, and when you exhale out of your mouth like that, you literally just relax. That's a nice one to do at the end of the day in bed too. If you're feeling like you can't relax, you can just inhale, exhale out the mouth, and just do it as you relax. And then I feel like that last part would be to take a moment and maybe like smell an essential oil. I forgot there's something I want to share. If you need like a mindset shift, like I was saying that I was standing up and saying, I'm the boss, it just made me feel better about things. So like on Zenned Out Biz, like our, if you sign up for a newsletter, we have these little positive affirmation cards for your business. So like this one says, I am worthy of everything I desire for my business. This, like having something that's positive about your business that kind of reminds you of your, like why you're doing all of this. If you maybe have that pinned in front and you make a point when you're like, oh, I need a little self-care break or whatever, you know, move your body, do some breathing, find that thing to positive to read and kind of get you back into why you're doing everything.
Yeah, totally. I think the, like what you're saying is when you kind of, I think it can be also a sign of the type A personalities that many of us have, that when we do this, we kind of think that we need to have this perfect routine down or something to do self-care, to do, you know, exercises with your body or whatever. And like you said, it can just be very intuitive. And most of us have like taken enough PE classes in our life that we can, you know, be like, oh, this doesn't feel good. I can stretch it this way, you know, like it's usually not too much rocket science to be like, oh yeah, doing this is going to help, you know, or doing this will help or whatever.
Yes, exactly. I know. And like I said, once you do one thing, you'll be like, oh, and then all of a sudden you'll all
stretched in our lives, guys. Right. We don't have to have some like crazy yoga practice that, you know, takes us there or whatever. But or even just like it's not like I am some, you know, diehard yoga practitioner, but you kind of just remember, oh, this is kind of what like a little bit of a sun salutation is like, and these kinds of things are you know, are easy enough to kind of just repeat a little, that aren't like I need to have a routine memorized, I guess.
Right, exactly. I know. Take the stress out.
Yeah, totally.
Yes.
Totally. All right. Well, does anybody have any questions or want to share anything that they learned while we're doing this? I don't see any questions in here. Everyone's been a little bit quiet today. Do you guys have any? You were also talking about something that I put the link in the chat area for Zenned Out Biz, and to get to your newsletter, how would they do that in there? Is it fairly obvious?
It is. There's like an opt-in right at the top, and then there's another picture that has the cards that takes you there too. Okay.
But you are also mentioning another thing that you guys are starting to do, or a new project that's coming up.
Well, yeah, I've had these kind of like coaching sessions, but then that intuitive counseling program that I just finished, it kind of adds a whole nother element to what I was doing. And I just finished it last week. And so my teacher in that was like, why don't you just offer some sessions at $40? So that's what I'm doing. And I have kind of 2 offers. And so far, I ended up working with some business owners for like my practice sessions. And it's a little bit of like business coaching, life coaching, and also me using my intuition, helping you kind of maybe see things that I don't know, sometimes people just can't see themselves, like in their business. And everyone I've had so far, there's been kind of like a breakthrough that happens. That's been kind of a positive, kind of energetic shift. And then all of a sudden there's like a next step is so much more obvious in the business. So I'm excited to be offering those.
Awesome. And how would people do that? Is that through your website? Is that say?
Yeah, it's on Zenned.biz, and right on the homepage, there's two things. One says offerings, and then there's another image that says work with us. And then if you go to that page, there's one that says like intuitive business reading with Kerri.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we encourage you guys to figure out how to put this practice in, to incorporate this practice in your own work and holiday season. A good way to do that is writing this down. Maybe put it on a board and like talk about the things that, to remind yourself to do daily to get a little bit stressed out. Or less stressed. You don't have to do all of these things, just the things that make sense for you. And it can be a reminder that, this is kind of, part of your business routine. Which is just as important as doing any other business part of your business, I guess. This is, as important as doing accounting or filling orders is taking care of yourself in your business as well, too, because there is only one of you. So any other comments or things before we wrap this up, Kerri?
No, I feel good. I guess just kind of take care of yourself. And I like how Sharon said, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. I'm a big fan of reminders on the phone to remind yourself to do this.
Totally. Yeah. That can be very helpful. The scheduling it in. So, as a reminder, next week is American Thanksgiving. So we will not be doing this, but we will be back here the week after this with Carolyn Caffelli, of the Wishing Elephants, talking about being nice to yourself in business. So that will be the last of the self-care series. Thank you so much, Kerri, for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, guys. You guys have a great day. Thank you.